Welcome back to CoinLady channel. It would appear that Coinbase is gearing up for a major conflict with the SEC. Because they may have far-reaching effects on the company as a whole, the video will focus on the particulars of this fight. To add, I'd like to show you what makes Ripple a special company. I came across a fascinating video earlier today that shows how integral Ripple will be to the future development of the US government and the US financial system. You want to see this without a shadow of a doubt. Since Coinbase delisted XRP almost immediately after the SEC claimed it was a security of Ripple, I thought it would be appropriate to introduce a significant stance Coinbase is now taking against the SEC in this video. In light of Coinbase's repeated assurances over the past few years that the platform does not feature a securities listing, this development came as something of a shock. Furthermore, the SEC and Coinbase worked together, and Coinbase was never told it couldn't list XRP. Consequently, when the SEC claimed XRP to be the security of Ripple, many people saw this as a weak claim, and Coinbase promptly delisted XRP from its exchange. Because you probably wouldn't have a lot of faith in your own analysis of which tokens on your exchange are securities and which aren't, I said that I thought Coinbase might have made a major policy error in this case. In the event that you delisted XRP before a determination was made as to whether or not it constituted a security, you may find yourself in a sticky situation. That "oh, maybe we got this one wrong" tone comes across if you're proven wrong. This makes me wonder if Coinbase would treat all assets in the same way. And that makes me wonder, how confident are you that these different tokens are not securities? They appear to be in a hurry to make a call. It would make more sense to me if they had waited to see how the SEC case played out before making any policy adjustments. If XRP was classified as a security, the exchange could remove it, but if not, it would remain. Coinbase's decision to delist XRP is one reason why I find myself in this position surprising. Even if Coinbase is getting ready to sue the SEC over whether or not their staking product is a security, I will show that it is not. Recent negotiations between the SEC and Kraken have confirmed that the Kraken Staking product was indeed a security. However, the services provided by Coinbase and Kraken are vastly distinct. Kraken essentially provided yield on a wide range of assets via a number of staking and lending mechanisms. Staking, for instance, was the key ingredient that made it sing. Bitcoin dividends could be earned through the asset on the Kraken exchange. Bitcoin can no longer be gambled with, as is common knowledge. Kraken essentially pretended to lend out Bitcoin as if doing so was an investment. Given that you were depending entirely on Kraken to deliver your yield without resorting to any protocol, I think this was done for security purposes. If I spend Ethereum on the Ethereum Network, I expect the protocol to reimburse me. All of these networks have incentives built in, so if I bet my bar or my algorithm, I stand to win. Even better, I don't have to rely on anyone else to give me access to these perks. The network's platform is essential to me, and I rely on it. Coinbase will act as an agent to stake your assets. But you're only helping your own financial situation. As a result, it can be concluded that Coinbase is not profitable in and of itself. This is crucial, as your entire business model relies on Coinbase's success. You're basically just trusting Coinbase to hold your account and do some of the heavy lifting. Coinbase seems to agree with my understanding that it is not a security and that it should not be treated as such. The Kraken was effective in producing fruit. This is precisely what they were up to. As a precaution, they should not have behaved in such a way. Coinbase is merely staking your funds for convenience. You will still get all the rewards. As a result, they are completely fruitless. I think it's critical that Coinbase takes this stance, as this difference is fairly major. My thoughts often turn to the years to come. Due to the increased centralization of the user interface, the back end is likely to experience the greatest degree of decentralization. Most cryptocurrency trading on the cruise will occur through these exchanges. However, as opposed to staking their own funds from their own wallets, many users would rather have Coinbase handle everything automatically. They'd also rather have ClickStick and Coinbase take care of it, and it's important to realize that even if you hate the idea of exchanges and never use them, it's still important that exchanges have clarity about what's allowed on their platforms. That difficulty will now be easier to see. At this time, it is unclear whether Kraken was the only firm the SEC targeted because of the manner in which it released its staking product, or if the SEC decides to outlaw any form of staking. Ultimately, this is just a very encouraging sign that helps bring things into focus. It is crucial that companies with the resources to take on the SEC, like Coinbase, do so. If the SEC and Congress don't lay out clear guidelines, it will be difficult to know what is and isn't legal. Now that I've exhausted my interest in that topic, I'd like to move on to something else. First, I'd like to share this video from a digital asset investor, and then I'll share some other fascinating data with you. Hence, Ripple is not your typical corporation, and this will only serve to highlight the fact that there are plenty of other businesses out there, many of which are much larger than Ripple, that don't get nearly as much attention from major participants in the American financial system and from government agencies in the United States. I'd like to shed light on the reasons behind Ripple's meteoric rise, which I believe will render the entire SEC case irrelevant upon further examination. Stay tuned, because this is going to reveal some additional interesting information. Let's get going because we're getting close to our destination. Now let's talk about whether or not Swift is a threat to your business or a potential partner. What about monetary exchanges conducted via messaging apps like WeChat and Revel? Ripple early on decided to model itself after the infrastructure layer, which presents a number of strategic challenges. I'll be completely transparent and say that one of them is that if you interact with regulated endpoints, you must follow all regulatory frameworks, including KYC, Know Your Customer, and AML, anti-money laundering. If you only interact with authorized devices, they guarantee that this is the case. Businesses like WeChat must take responsibility for their own regulatory compliance. The mere mention of SWIFT suggests that it is a competitor, given that all you're doing when using Quick is messaging. It's a little more difficult to send a SWIFT transfer because it requires sending bank messages to banks that have liquidity. Citibank and HSBC are, therefore, the two largest JPMC to some extent. When it comes to liquidity, these are the three best banks. Specifically, Jamie Dimon was mentioned. To get back to Jamie and JP Morgan, what do you think needs to change the most so that they can keep their market share and not have someone else outperform them in terms of client service? The banker's fear is palpable right now. You also use real-time communication with financial institutions to check that debits and credits add up to the correct amounts. Since Ripple is also a messaging and liquidity platform, it competes with CD in one area but not with Swift. A SWIFT, as I've mentioned before, was developed over half a century ago. This building hasn't changed much in terms of its architecture over time. However, if you're serious about flying it, you should know that it's still a slow plane that costs a lot and makes plenty of mistakes. Being a one-way messaging system helps to shed some light on the matter. That is to say, you can get away with having 3 S's instead of 2, so my fat-fingered Tars's mistake of inserting one C in the middle will not affect anything. Sorry, but you've got the wrong account if you're looking for that person. Inevitably, they will respond. Incorrect. With today's technology, you get an instantaneous response as you enter data like tasks and account numbers. So, does that make sense? Oh, I forgot to add that person's name with my clumsy fingers, so now we have a 10 pip error rate and a 99.9% success rate instead of the 6% that was originally stated. You conclude, then, that these are superior technologies that can be sold as wholesalers and used across most of the financial system. Therefore, we don't try to compete with WeChat. Among our potential customers is WeChat. I found that clip featuring Brad Garlinghouse very interesting, especially the parts in which he describes the nature of the most formidable competitors. The sheer variety of participants is what I find most intriguing about it. In order to talk to one another now, we use Swift. On top of that, banks supply liquidity, and Ripple is a one-stop shop for financial transactions. Ripple has the technology and the funds to transfer money around the world in a flash. Some very influential people in the United States became interested in it early on, riding that wave. This is the current state of knowledge regarding the Ripple SEC scenario. Let me preface by saying that obtaining access to documents like these that we otherwise would not have access to is one of my favorite aspects of the Triple SE case. take note of this. A worldwide blockchain-based payment system was proposed by the Ripple team in October 2013. Are you aware that Chris Larsen was invited by the US Department of Treasury to explain this to regulators? Do you find yourself paying more attention now? This indicates that Ripple began meeting with the US Treasury shortly after its inception in 2013. We are the only recently founded company in the world to have already had meetings with the US Treasury. The biggest players in our system were aware of Ripple's progress towards its goals, including OTL, long before the company had completed any of them. They realized something major was happening because the product Ripple software and XRP developed for our monetary system is truly revolutionary. There are exceptions for other types of companies. There is no doubt that Ripple is distinctive in many ways. At some point, I think we will all take a step back and realize that the whole Ripple SEC case was merely a pretext for the final audit of a company that will undoubtedly transform the world. Anyhow, thank you so much for making the trip here. I trust you enjoyed this bit of news. Do not forget to click the like and subscribe buttons if you did. Right now, it means a great deal to me. See you later, bye.